So just some of the questions that we've had in relation to stalking and harassment. The first one is, why does it need to take years of stalking and harassment before an arrest is made?
It doesn't, and it shouldn't. As soon as we can show a pattern of behaviour, we're able to take enforcement action. But recently we've developed our capacity and capability in relation to civil orders, so we can now take a far earlier intervention via a stalking protection order, which can give some positive obligations on a suspect and help to reassure victims and also safeguard the wider public.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's important, isn't it, for people to know it isn't just an arrest that can be made. It is those other orders that we can support them with as well to try to help stop those patterns of behaviour.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Another question that we've had is, I'm reporting all the time but not receiving any help.
Yeah, I think it's important here to highlight for people that there are a number of support services and agencies that are there for people in different circumstances to receive that help, and that people can seek that support themselves as well, not just through the police. Obviously we can refer them to agencies, and that can depend again on their circumstance. So we have things such as victim focus or IDVAs if it's a domestic situation that we can refer to, but they don't have to rely on police or reports to police in order to receive that help or support, and that is out there for them. We can obviously point people in the right direction, and we can give them those contact details, and officers have access to those contact details as well if necessary, but there are a number of agencies out there that can help people through not only the situation but also potentially reporting the incident to the police as well and supporting them. So I think it's really good that people know it isn't just through policing that they can get that support.
Another question. I'm scared that the police only act when someone is killed. Is that true?
It absolutely is not true. Is the first thing I'll say about that. And I can understand with some of the cases or reports in the media why people would think that in extreme situations that's the only time that we act, but I would just want to reassure people that is not the case. We talked earlier in relation to when we would arrest, so if there's any patterns of behaviour that the police will identify, we will act upon those. And it's just important, I want people to be reassured that we will act upon reports as appropriate, so whatever information we get, we'll assess that information and deal with it appropriately. And the plan is for us to deal with that situation before it escalates, and the priority is to keep people safe. The next question here, Paul, or a statement, is the system is too slow and it's so frustrating.
I think it's a valid complaint that people have, how long a matter can take to go to court. Sometimes that's around building a file of evidence. Sometimes it's in relation to delays with courts and getting a trial date. But what we have improved significantly in the last 12 months is our response to managing that period of time before trial or before conviction. As mentioned earlier, we've got stalking protection orders, which we're increasing our capability and capacity for, and then ensuring that we've got positive obligations so we can proactively manage suspects moving forward to manage the risk to a victim. And support them during that difficult time before a matter goes to court and there's a conviction.
Absolutely, and I think it's really important, isn't it, to keep victims updated throughout that process, and that's probably one of the things we would focus on in relation to making sure they're aware of the different stages, especially if we have any conditions like we talked about through court orders or through any other civil orders or bail conditions. So making sure that people are up to date with what they are and how to maintain contact with police officers should they need to report anything further.
And what we'd advise people to do is keep a record of incidents or contacts, screenshots, dates, times, etc. And then we will push forward a thorough and quick investigation to bring matters to court as quickly as we can.
Okay, and we'll maintain that contact as well with the Crown Prosecution Service if it's something that's going through the justice system, and look to get that support for victims as well through Victim Focus or any other specialist services to try to help people to better understand what that process looks like for them.
We're also constantly trying to improve our response to stalking. We're speaking to the Crown Prosecution Service and seeing where some of the gaps are in our investigations and why matters haven't been convicted at court, and then we're feeding that learning back into the organisation then to make sure that our response to stalking is far better moving forward.
Another interesting question that we've had is, how do I build my case if I am being stalked?
I think the answer to that really is that you don't have to build the case yourself. That's a job for us. But what we would ask is that you keep a detailed notes of times, contacts, screenshots to aid us in building the best case that we possibly can to bring that offender to justice.
Absolutely, it's about that kind of openness, isn't it, with the officer to be able to actually find out that evidence and to assist with building the evidence to present it. I totally agree, it is obviously not up to the victim to actually build that case, but hopefully they can provide us with the information when we request it.
And that will assist us in building a clear picture of patterns of behaviour moving forward to then not only take enforcement action but also assist in our safeguarding response to them.
Yeah, and I think it's important as well, especially in stalking and harassment cases, to understand how it's made that victim feel. And it is part of our job to be able to help others to understand the effect that that pattern of behaviour has had on them as an individual.
And also, for a lot of victims, it's that awareness that they're not alone, and quite often there's serial perpetrators who are committing these sort of offences against numerous victims. We've just been asked another question, which is, I've reported and just get victim blamed of what I should and shouldn't be doing, rather than holding the perpetrator accountable.
I think they said it there, that the perpetrator is accountable. There is only one person to blame for their behaviour, and that's the person who's undertaking that behaviour, so the victim is not to blame. We should be reassuring, police officers should be reassuring the victim that it is not their fault, and what we should be looking for is assistance with finding out what those patterns of behaviour were, what the evidence is that we need to build for the case, and if anybody feels that they have been blamed, or if they have any issues with any officers dealing with the case, then they should report that to us and we will deal with it appropriately.
We've also been asked then, there's apparently never enough evidence when I make a report.
Okay. Well, stalking is about a pattern of behaviour, so it is important to build that evidence and to just get the evidence in whatever format that comes. So it could be digital evidence, it could be statements from victims, it could be statements from family and friends, and even employers, dependent on the behaviour. So there's a number of ways. So I understand how they feel that there could be a significant amount of evidence that we've got to work through for that case. But I would encourage people to engage fully with the officers in order to gather that evidence, and it will be our job then to present that evidence in a case file to the Crown Prosecution Service to try to ensure a conviction at the end. So I understand that that may feel frustrating, but we will help to gather that evidence and to direct victims through the process. There's another question in relation to the actual situation. So could it be classed as stalking if I'm friends with the person?
Definitely, it's not around the labels or previous relationships you've had with an individual. We get reports of stalking in even a business setting where someone's given a cup of coffee to a suspect and then is later then been stalked by that individual. It's not just a domestic related problem, it is also stranger related. And can affect numerous people in numerous different settings. If you do feel that you've been the victim of anything at all and you've got any concerns, then I'd advise you to report that to police at the early stages so we can take an early, proactive response to investigate that, and also put in some early safeguarding measures to support you to prevent that matter escalating further.
So the behaviour is unwanted is what's important here, isn't it? So the actual behaviour itself could be something that potentially would be deemed a nice act, so could be leaving chocolates, could be leaving presents, etc. However, it is the pattern of behaviour, it's the fact that it's unwanted, it's repeated, and that it actually causes fear. So again, the actual circumstance of the relationship, whether you're friends or that person's unknown, is irrelevant.
Yeah, and I think you make a really valid point there that receiving flowers or chocolates from someone, you know, without knowing the full circumstances, you'd think would be quite a nice gesture. But when that's in a work setting or when you're in a professional capacity and people are turning up delivering flowers to your workplace, it's all around control, and putting pressure on a victim, and people use that as a mask then to justify or trying to reasonableise their behaviours.
And being courteous in a professional setting is obviously required in a lot of occupations, and again, if the other person misunderstands that or misinterprets it, that is not the victim's fault. The behaviour is absolutely the perpetrator's behaviour and their responsibility.
Absolutely.
Another question we've been asked is, when should I report to the police?
The earliest stage possible, so as soon as something doesn't feel right, that is the point that you should be reporting something to the police, so we can take early intervention for safeguarding measures, and if we can prevent that matter escalating at that early stage, then the earlier we hear about it, the better.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we can provide advice as well to the individuals involved in the situation. And again, we could also provide people with details of support agencies if they need to, or if they don't feel ready to progress the matter criminally at that time. We can provide the guidance for them as well. So whenever they feel they should report it to the police early.